Welcome back to Calm Coding, the weekly cybersecurity podcast that covers the latest news and stories.
Today we are taking a look at three really different but, interconnected battlegrounds.
It's a wild mix. We've got high-stakes geopolitical drama, some very sophisticated new AI attack tactics, and then a few of those patch or die alerts that are hitting enterprises with, maximum urgency this week.
That's right. And what connects all of these, from, a massive fine against Cloudflare to systematic attacks on AI models, is the pressure being put on what we call intermediaries.
Okay.
We're seeing network infrastructure, platform APIs, DevOps tools. They're all being leveraged or regulated or attacked because they're the central nervous system of how everything works online.
So we're going to give you the crucial intelligence you need on these.
We are. We'll move from a multi-million-dollar regulatory fight in Europe, then into the new world of AI reconnaissance, and finish with three very immediate and severe vulnerabilities.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the high-stakes fight brewing in Europe. This one seems like it could threaten the very definition of an open internet.
The headline here is a truly aggressive move by Italy's communication watchdog, AGCOM. They've hit Cloudflare with a staggering fine.
How big are we talking?
Approximately 14 million euros, which is about 17 million US dollars.
That is huge. And the reason?
Cloudflare just flat out refused to register with their controversial anti-piracy framework. The Italians call it the Piracy Shield.
Right, and this is all about cracking down on illegal streams, isn't it?
Precisely. Specifically live sports, the high-value stuff like Serie A football. The Piracy Shield framework is really prescriptive. It demands that ISPs and, crucially, DNS providers block access to pirate streams within 30 minutes of a notification.
So what's Cloudflare's defense here? Because it sounds like they aren't really arguing about the piracy itself, but about where the blocking should happen.
Absolutely. Their CEO, Matthew Prince, was extremely vocal. He called the decision unjust and wrong for democratic values. Their argument is philosophical. They're saying they're just a neutral conduit for traffic, like the Postal Service.
They're not the content host.
Exactly. They're not responsible for what's inside the package.
Okay, so this is where we should probably stop and explain the difference between Cloudflare as a CDN and Cloudflare's public 1.1.1 service. Because that's the key part, isn't it?
It's the crucial distinction. So if you're connecting to the internet, 1.1.1.1 is what's called a recursive DNS resolver.
The phone book of the internet.
The universal phone book for the entire internet. You type in a domain, the resolver looks up the IP address. Prince argues that forcing a recursive resolver to block content sets this impossible and, frankly, dangerous global precedent.
Because if Italy can force them to remove an entry?
It risks blacking out any site on the internet, potentially way beyond the scope of a single country or a single pirated football match.
If the DNS resolver is the phone book, then blocking at that level is like ripping pages out before anyone even finds the number. It's a fundamental attack on the infrastructure's neutrality.
It is, and the company's response to this fine was equally dramatic.
They issued an ultimatum.
It was a truly shocking escalation. Cloudflare threatened to pull all of their servers from Italian cities.
Wow.
Terminate plans to build a new Italian office, discontinue free cybersecurity services for Italian users, and even pull millions of dollars in pro bono cybersecurity services for the upcoming Milano Cortina Winter Olympics.
He basically told the Italian government, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
He really did. It just shows the gravity of this infrastructure fight. This is not just a fine for them.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, is this just an isolated fight? Or is Italy part of a larger trend we're seeing in Europe?
Oh, it's definitely part of a broader conflict. This is just the latest escalation where copyright holders are intensely pressuring these intermediaries to act as, de facto internet police.
We've seen similar things in Spain, right?
Yeah. Yes, especially with the La Liga football league where that conflict has just deepened. And in France, the courts have been even more explicit. They ordered popular VPNs to block access to over 200 illegal sports streaming sites.
So the pressure is shifting. It's moving from going after the content host to going after the network infrastructure that connects people to it.
Exactly. And Italy is doubling down. They've already shared plans to require VPNs themselves to block pirated content under these same Piracy Shield rules.
So where does this go from here?
Well, Cloudflare is appealing the fine. Their practical defense is strong blocking at the DNS level is often ineffective because users can just switch resolvers. It's easy.
And it risks massive collateral damage, right? Blocking legitimate sites that share an IP address.
Massive. But the core argument remains, is the internet's phone book responsible for the content people access using those numbers?
A fascinating dilemma. Okay, so that fight shows the complexity of regulating the internet's pipes. But what happens when malicious actors turn their attention not to the network, but to the engine running inside the infrastructure? Let's shift gears to the exploitation of artificial intelligence services.
Right. And we saw a massive coordinated campaign over the holiday season. Researchers at Greynoise logged over 91,000 attack sessions against exposed AI systems.
And that was just between October 2025 and January 2026.
Just in that window. And this wasn't, hobbyist scanning. This was a systematic campaign targeting misconfigured proxies or gateways.
So the target wasn't the AI model itself, but the layer protecting it. The front door, if you will.
That's the key. They're looking for configurations that accidentally exposed internal or paid access to major LLM services. Think OpenAI, Gemini, other big model families.
And Greynoise identified two distinct campaigns.
Two very clever campaigns targeting these proxies.
Let's start with the first one, the phone home trick. This is where it gets really interesting in terms of reconnaissance.
This is textbook vulnerability confirmation, just applied at scale to AI interfaces. Attackers were trying to trick the exposed AI server into connecting back to a server that they controlled.
How would they do that?
By abusing internal features that might need external communication. Things like model downloads or custom data loading functions or webhooks, anything that makes an outbound call.
So if the attacker can force the victim server to phone home to their command and control server, what does that confirm for that?
It confirms two critical things. First, that the underlying system is vulnerable to this kind of external manipulation. And second, that there is a viable data exfiltration path.
If I can make your server talk to mine, I can probably steal data later.
Exactly. It's high-value information. They use it to prioritize targets for later, more destructive attacks.
And the second campaign, the systematic mapper, that was focused purely on intelligence gathering, profiling these services.
Right. And the way they pulled it off, tens of thousands of times without setting off alarms, it was incredibly subtle.
What was the method?
They hammered exposed AI endpoints, but not with complex attacks. They sent extremely simple, innocent-sounding questions.
Like what?
Things like, how many states are there in the U.S.? Or what is the capital of France?
The simplicity is the genius here, isn't it?
Absolutely. It allowed them to figure out the specific AI model and the API format being used. Is it an OpenAI style API or is it Google Gemini? And they could do all that without triggering security monitoring tools that are looking for complex malicious inputs.
They were just fingerprinting the LLM itself.
That's it. And that fingerprinting is so valuable because it's necessary intelligence for tailored attacks later. If I know you're using Model X, I know its specific weaknesses, its cost structure, how its API wrapper behaves.
So they can plan a targeted attack to abuse API rate limits, steal tokens.
Or even attempt a Model exfiltration by knowing exactly which endpoints to hit. This was a professional campaign, peaking right over the Christmas break when defenders were less alert. Pure intelligence gathering.
That shift from immediate prompt hacking to systematic model reconnaissance, that feels like a huge development for how we need to secure AI.
It is. Now let's pivot from those big picture fights and AI threats to immediate high-severity vulnerabilities that require action now. This is the patching gauntlet hitting sysadmins this week, and we need to move quickly.
Let's start with the big one. It's a maximum severity flaw with a name that sounds like a horror movie. Ni8mare.
Ni8mare plagues n8n, which is a very popular open source workflow automation platform.
I see it everywhere.
It's used heavily for automating data ingestion, connecting apps, building AI agents. It's basically the digital nervous system for a lot of organizations. It's got over 100 million polls on Docker Hub.
That sounds high stakes already. What's the specific flaw?
The flaw is tracked as CVE 2026-2158. It is maximum severity, a 10 out of 10.
A 10. Wow.
Yeah, it's categorized as an improper input validation weakness.
And a 10 out of 10 usually means the path of least resistance has been found. What's the real-world consequence?
It allows unauthenticated remote server takeover.
Let that sink in.
An attacker doesn't need a username, a password, anything. They can just remotely compromise the underlying server. And the urgency is extreme because nearly 60,000 internet-connected instances of n8n are still exposed.
Mostly in the US, Europe, and Asia, I saw.
That's right. If you run an n8n, you have to upgrade immediately to version 1.12, 1.0, or newer. A temporary defense is restricting or disabling public webhook and form endpoints.
When a workflow automation tool is compromised like that, the blast radius is just massive. Okay, moving on, we have a government mandate regarding a private Git service.
We're talking about GOGs. A lot of organizations use GOGs as a self-hosted Git service. It's a private alternative to platforms like GitHub.
And the flaw.
Is CVE 2025-8110. It's a critical symlink bypass vulnerability rated 8.7 out of 10.
Can you break down what symlink bypass means for our listeners?
Of course. So a symlink is basically a shortcut file. In this case, the attacker found a way to trick the system via the put contents API into following that shortcut outside of the intended secure directory.
They bypass the sandbox.
They bypass the sandbox, which then enables unauthenticated remote code execution, or RCE.
And RCE means they take over the server entirely. They can deploy malware, exfiltrate sensitive code.
Exactly. And the U.S. government confirmed how severe this is. CISA added it to their Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog, the KEV.
Which gives federal agencies a hard deadline to patch.
A very hard deadline. Early February 2026. And the most sobering part, researchers found that over 700 of the 1,400 exposed GOG servers already show signs of compromise.
So attackers are already having a field day.
A total field day. It speaks volumes about the speed at which these unauthenticated vulnerabilities get weaponized.
Okay, finally, let's talk firewalls. Specifically, a high-severity flaw in Palo Alto Networks equipment.
Right. Palo Alto patched a high-severity denial-of-service flaw, CVE 2026-0227, rated a 7.7. This affects the GlobalProtect gateway and portal,
The key components of their VPN system.
For many enterprises, this is the primary defense for their remote workers.
So an unauthenticated attacker can just crash the firewall.
Yes, and crucially, they can force the device into maintenance mode. It's a flaw in the PAN-OS software. An attacker can initiate this state just through repeated connection attempts.
Which means your primary network defense goes down and your entire remote workforce is cut off.
Instantly. It's a critical, sustained operational failure of a key security device.
And this one is particularly nasty because, unlike many flaws, there are no workarounds.
Correct. Palo Alto was very clear. There are no known workarounds to mitigate the flaw if you're on a vulnerable version. The only fix is to apply the patch immediately.
We covered a huge spectrum today, but that thread of intermediaries was clear throughout. We started with the immense geopolitical pressure on core network providers like Cloudflare.
Then we saw how hackers are turning their attention to application intermediaries, the misconfigured LLM proxies and gateways, to systematically map the AI landscape for future attacks.
And we wrapped with the critical need for immediate patching on common enterprise and DevOps tools, from unauthenticated takeover and n8n to RCE and private Git servers like GOGs, right up to DOS flaws in major firewalls.
The sheer volume of these high-severity flaws that allow unauthenticated takeover. It just shows that the path of least resistance for attackers is often that external-facing server that developers rely on for flexibility.
It's a harsh reminder that the most advanced threats often exploit simple, unpatched software.
It is a great reminder to ensure your workflow and Git environments are locked down and updated.
Absolutely.
So, to leave you with a final thought to consider, you've heard about Cloudflare's costly and uncompromising fight to keep DNS blocking out of Italy. If a recursive DNS resolver is the phone book of the internet, what responsibility, if any, should network intermediaries have in deciding which entries get ripped out? And who gets to enforce that decision globally?
A critical question for a world that's increasingly grappling with internet jurisdiction and the power of these platforms we all rely on. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with more of the latest news and stories.